Okay, perfect. Yo,
Yeah,
yo,
how you doing,
yo.
Ruben? We're good.
How's everybody doing today? Twitter world.
And
How's it-
TikTok and a bunch of other
oh
places
yeah,
too.
how could I forget TikTok and Twitch and all that? But hope everybody's having an amazing day. What's up, Roja in the chat? Ethan, Sandro. Hope everybody's having an amazing week. Been a pretty quiet last few days since we've done the stream. But like always, we want to come on here, uh, every Tuesday and Friday. Again, Tuesday like today at 1 p.m., Friday 10 a.m. Kind of discussing not only the news and kind of what's happening, going on, but also a lot of important topics that are on a lot of people's minds. So I hope everybody again is having a great day. We'll go ahead and get started with the good stuff today. Again, I don't know if you guys saw on the Telegram. That's where I know a lot of people are coming from. We're going to be talking about a little bit of the developments in the trade deal is a trade deal close with China. We'll be looking at least what the meme coins that I think look juiciest for like the biggest comebacks and the biggest gains in 2025. Maybe a little bit of topics about whether I think it's really relevant right now and whether trenching or day trading or buying and holding, coins, alts, memes I'm talking about, is a better solution or a better opportunity to create long term success. We'll be talking about NFTs and a few other things. So we appreciate you guys so much for being on. We'd love to make these streams interactive, and answer your guys' questions, comments, and all that. So feel free to write anything you guys want us to see in that chat. We'll be paying attention. Before we get started in the good stuff, first of all, how's everybody on the panel doing today? Max, for Loco, Danksy,
Doing
everyone.
great, man. Hello, everybody.
Pretty good.
Doing well, man. It's
Excellent.
tax day in the US here, so I imagine a lot of people are busy trying to crank up the numbers and file their tax returns.
Yes, sir, for sure, for sure. And then yeah, Chris, we see all you guys in there. What's up, Roach? But before we get started, we go and get into the topics and the meat and potatoes. I do want to the way we usually start the show is we do a little bit of a review of the past few days with our boy Roats here. So you can go and take it away, Roats.
Perfect. You know who's not doing taxes is that punk, with
Wilcox?
Wilcox with $12 million in profit and not claiming it is now looking at jail time. So if you're
Yeah.
in crypto, be aware. Taxes are there. A lot of this stuff can be tracked down, KYC, etc. So just be aware of your on ramps, off ramps, etc.
Yeah.
And make sure you're making the right moves. Other than that, we have kind of the roundup here. Bitcoin, relatively flat. I guess we're up a couple thousand over the weekend, but kind of in this looks like a bit of a rebound as, generally speaking, tariff fears have eased, and most of the uncertainty regarding that has subsided. Kraken is now going to offer stock and ETF trading with zero fees, kind of a play on what Robinhood is doing, and I think this is going to be good for Kraken, something that maybe Coinbase should be looking at doing. I think a big win for Coinbase if they're ready to do something similar. Solana ETFs to be available in Canada. Not sure how much volume that's going to drive. Probably not a lot, but positive news on the Solana side of things in the moves there. Um, Final Bossu on Abstract, and I know I'm not big on the third party chains for NFTs, but this particular project, uh, fairly hyped when it comes to Abstract, kind of the headlining project. It's up about 2x past mint. Going to really watch this for reveal, etc., and just see how things play out. But worth noting, SEC closes its case on CyberConks, so that's positive as well. So SEC dropping all of its cases, really kind of the theme of the day, anyways, as it is. And then AI agent market cap at 5.67 billion, kind of relatively flat. Actually, I don't know if I updated that percent. And then NFTs volumes themselves are, again, pretty level. Solana up a bit in terms of volume. Ordinal's really quite low. I even looked at the movers on the weekly. So we didn't see a lot when it came to the daily. Pudgy Penguin's up 6.6%, only at 9.6 ETH, which is down a fair bit in terms of USD values. So again, this is a really interesting time for accumulation given ETH's underperformance. And as NFTs kind of gain a bit of energy overall, we've seen some higher punk sales, et cetera, that are pretty positive. Mutant Apes are up 5.6% as well, up to 2.46. And then we have Taproot Wizards up 25% to 0.17. So a bit of a rebound there for them, which is good to see. And then on meme coins, some energy there overall over the last week, mostly Farcoin that we mentioned before. Anime up 18% over the last 24 hours, 48% over the last week. And Brett is up 2.1% and 45% over the last week too. So some big weekly movers there. And then price achievement, 100,000 is down to 6% as the month gets closer to an end. Although I don't think that's too much off the table. I think 100K is probably a stretch, but 95, 90K. I think if things kind of self-correct, there's been a general good amount of energy towards NFTs crypto and Bitcoin in general. And then 70K down 10% to 11%. That is the update. On to you guys.
Great review, Rose.
Excellent. A+.
Brent, are you there?
Wow.
I always forget to take off the mute while after Rhodes is talking, but just like everybody else, I was saying how great of a review that was, Rhodes. I appreciate you. But I do see your guys' comments in there. Thean asked about FWOG and AI. I do want to get to memes here in a bit, Thean, and that will be the first thing that we address. So I appreciate you for asking that. Justin says, "What's up, B3L? What's up, brother?" I am for back. It's crazy on here. It doesn't show people's normal name. I think it shows their @ so sometimes it's hard to recognize who the person is that I normally know. But I appreciate you guys for being on. I do want to get into a few topics again here today. I think we'll first off just start off what we normally do and kind of the most relevant thing as far as news wise on everybody's mind, and that's just the trade war. We'll briefly touch on. Let me share my screen here. Let's see, Chrome. Let's do this. Chrome tab. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
No.
Okay.
We see Dansky.
I think you have to approve it, Danksy or whoever.
Sorry, I think it's just different layers. You should be good.
Yeah, no worries. All good. So, yeah, today I saw a few different things over the past few days that really reminded me of our conversation last week when Max was talking about and really described well in this clip that I put out, made by my great editor, Can't Stop Me Now, who I've been working with. You guys will be hearing a lot more about him lately. He's been making a lot of these great pieces of like AI clips for me. Shout out to him. But pretty much this is from our last stream, I think, or maybe a few ago. Max is talking about how China, they can't afford these tariffs, but China being a communist country, they really need to make sure that this deal that's done with the U.S. is framed in a way that they can claim victory, or else they could really cause social unrest in their country, again, because they're a communist country. I saw this today again. That kind of reminded me of that. Let me see. I'll go back to it. Where China says the United States is extremely shameless. The tariff war will backfire soon. Now, Max, do you see this as further posturing from China to kind of make them seem powerful to their country? Or what do you make of comments like this?
Yeah, well, it's chatter because on the weekend, if you follow, look, unfortunately, there's 5,000 places that are going to quote or misquote what China says.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, Xi Jinping was quoted in the China Times saying, "We implore President Trump to reduce the tariffs against China. We are open for discussion." Look, China's strength ended when they came back with their response last week. It was weak Everybody knew it. That's why the market rallied. If that was their shot, then this is just a matter of time. And all the chatter that you're hearing makes zero difference, because what you're not hearing is what's going on behind the scenes. And that's where we will see, I don't know if it's this week or 3 weeks from now, there will be a headline flashing across CNBC in that red flag saying breaking news. And the deal will be something like, and I'm guessing here, China and the U.S. reach a historic trading agreement. Both agree to drop all tariffs and expand trading between the two countries. And then it will give all the credit to Xi Jinping.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going on behind the scenes. And every single BS headline like this, good or bad, don't. I'm not trying to pick favorites. It is just hot air. It does not matter.
Yeah, for sure. And I was watching this video. Let me see if I can switch to this tab. Where was it? Right. Share this tab instead. I think it was on right here. Either way, I was watching this video with this lady on Bankless talking about how Trump, with the tariff stuff, is kind of like unwinding the global order. A lot of people view this as like a move away from like globalism. Is that something that you agree with, Max? Or
Well, globalization was a term coined when America tried to include everybody in the process,
Mhm.
and tried to make everybody equal. And at the end of the day, what we've experienced, if you pull away the curtain and check behind the curtain at the Wizard of Oz,
Mhm.
you found a little short guy pulling dials and knobs. In reality, if you pull away the curtain and you look behind the scenes of what globalization means, America gets screwed by every single country. So, if indeed we're going to say that trying to get unscrewed by every single country is somehow reshaping the global order, well, then indeed it is. And maybe it should be, by the way. Maybe globalization wasn't the right way. Um, we At the end of the day, you can't beat up the good guy that pays for everybody and expect him to keep paying. It just doesn't work that way. And I think Donald Trump is the first president who said, he's a street fighter. And, you, if you're not a politician, you don't like this. If you're a politician, you don't give a shit because you're ripping people off anyway. But
Yeah.
if you're not a politician and you're a businessman and you get to come in and fix things, well, guess what? You're going to come in and fix things. And maybe the world order is supposed to be back where America's in first and everybody else isn't. That's the way it works when you're the big boy on the street. It's not like somebody's doing something wrong, but if you're the pot of gold, then you don't need to be treated like garbage for more than, say, 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, it's gone on too long. Yeah, and also in this video, the lady agreed that something needed to be done, but she kind of sees Trump's the way he did it as like tossing the chessboard in the air. She liked to call it. She called it in the video, kind of how the stock market crashed and all that. What do you say to that? Do you think that the way Trump is done it, where obviously the chaos is caused is necessary? I think you probably made it pretty clear, but would you agree that kind of the way Trump went about it in a quote unquote extreme way was necessary um, to get the job done?
Well, I can tell you this. What this nice lady is leaving out, of course, is all the facts.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said earlier, ignore the garbage because it's all going to be garbage. By the way,
Yeah.
nothing that is real or important is being discussed because neither of the two leaders that are the most important want anybody to know about it. So whatever you're hearing is either created and faked by them so that you get thrown off the trail, or it's false because it's made up by the media. So you just got to let this shit kind of go by you.
Absolutely.
But here's the point. 2 weeks ago, there's only one way for a superpower who has tried patiently to reorganize things. There's only one way for a superpower to tell the entire world at the same time that it's tired. And the way you do that is you go to the Rose Garden and you announce all the stuff we announced 2 Wednesdays ago. Tomorrow it'll be 2 weeks. And what you do is you say, look, guys, we're done. We're finished. You want to keep going down this path. You got 1 week. And in 1 week, on April 9th, we're going to start charging everybody on this board tariffs. And we're just going to charge you what you charge us. Now, here's the point. He gave two simple things, two simple ways to make that not happen. It was clear for anybody who wanted to listen. Number one, stop charging us tariffs. If you'll stop charging us tariffs, we won't start charging you tariffs. Remember the key word there, start. In other words, you're kind of saying to a guy who's a bully and has been taking advantage of you for, say, 50 years, and every afternoon he comes out and punches you in the nose. Well, it's sort of like you saying, hey, you know what? If you will stop punching me in the nose, I am not going to bring my baseball bat the next time and beat you to death with it. I won't do it. But you got to stop punching me in the nose. If you don't, I'm bringing my baseball bat. Okay, it's really simple. This is not the United States being terrible to everybody. This is the United States treating everybody the way they treat the United States, which, by the way, I think is pretty fair. And it was very simple. If you don't want the baseball bat, stop charging tariffs. Now, if somehow you didn't hear that part and they didn't listen and they don't want to stop charging tariffs, he gave them another way out. He said, look, we all know we're the pot of gold. You want to sell us stuff. We want to keep buying your stuff. Here's the deal. If you're not going to stop charging us tariffs, I still won't charge you tariffs if you come here, make a deal with us, build your factory in America, let us hire American workers to make the stuff we buy from you. Now, why did we want to do that? Well, because instead of being a negative to our GDP, which is what a trade deficit is, it's a minus sign against your GDP, we want it to be a plus. Well, to be called in GDP, you have to make the product that you are buying on soil in the United States. Okay, so it was really two very simple things. The whole world wants to believe the bullshit in the media that somehow America just turned into a monster and wants to hurt all their neighbors. No.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think the missing piece in everybody's head, or most people's head that are really uneducated, is they assume, again, U.S., strongest country in the world, they must have the best trade deals. They must be taking advantage of everybody here. When in reality, when you really break it down, like the facts, like you said,
100% wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I
Now,
think that
it's really, really simple. Here's the point. In the first week, 72 countries called up the guys that are making the deals and bringing them to Trump and said, we want to make a deal. We're flying in. We'll get a hotel room and we'll sit in Washington, D.C. until we make a deal. Now, that was the first week. Now, another week has gone by, ending tomorrow. That 72 is up to 135. So 135 countries inside of 2 weeks have made it very clear to the United States that they want to even up the trade agreements. Do you know how immensely beneficial that is? That's very, very beneficial. Now, don't forget that the big boy on the block is China. And Donald Trump is going to make China pay. What's he going to make them pay for? He's going to make them pay for COVID.
Oh shit.
Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where COVID came from now. The media and the politicians hid it for a long time. Everybody now knows. A moron could have figured it out. But we were all lied to and we were told stories, and a lot of the country believed it. But the fact is it was damaging. And it basically threw Trump's first 4 years off track. He knows it, and Xi Jinping knows it. They released that virus because he had attacked them with round number 1 of tariffs. They flew sick people to our biggest cities, and sadly enough, that's where the virus started exploding. Now, end of the day, this all gets fixed. But like I said before, Trump is not going to be able to take credit. He's going to have to let Xi Jinping take credit. And if you read between the lines and all this stuff, I mean, think about it. That headline you showed from Xi Jinping, it's going to come back to pay. It's going to come back soon. Well, what he's really planting the seed of is when he can say, see, I told you it was coming back. Even Donald Trump said, I fixed this. It will backfire soon. What that means is when that red banner comes across, and I don't know if it's tomorrow or 3 weeks from now, but it'll certainly be in the next, 60 days. When it's done, Trump will let him get the credit, and he will be able to see, I told you it was shameless, and I told you they would back down. Well, fine. If he has to say that, that's great. But what needs to be done will be done. And by the way, all those people that are worried about shit that will not happen, and by the way, it will not happen. All these bad scenarios aren't going to happen. We're not going to have a recession. We're not going to go broke. We entered this game, and it is a game. We entered this game 5 weeks ago at the top of our game. We had just finished setting records in all earnings announcements.
Yeah.
We had just set records in the highest amount of corporate earnings in the history of this country. We just set records on net worth of every household in America. This country is ready to play this game. No other country is. And they all know it. That's why 132 have called in to get their appointments and get this straight.
Yep. I was about to say, I pulled this one up. Yeah, 130 countries are currently in negotiations for trade agreements. Seems like China is probably the only one that's like a kind of a little bit of a challenge, right?
Well, what do you expect? I mean, put it this way. Politicians that are presidents are not small egoed people.
Yeah.
You got the 2 biggest egos on the planet.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure they're not embarrassed in front of everybody. So it's like a little tap dance of egos. And you just got to they're like children, you got to let them, fight it out.
Yeah.
For sure.
Brent, I put up a few charts on the Telegram. If you want to open them up, perhaps
Yeah.
we can discuss here all together. And for those listening, if you have the ability to watch the screen even better, because some of these charts are, very telling. So yeah, see if you can pull out either one by one. I don't care about the order.
I just
We
got
can kind of like
banned from
discuss.
TikTok for fake news.
1 second. Let me close a few things. Yeah. Yeah. You guys can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so
1 second.
the first chart is the gold inflows. Pretty much over the last 15, 20 years, and it tells you that this year is by far the largest amount of gold inflows we've ever had. Now, of course, there's a lot of turmoil internationally, so you can make whatever you want out of this, but so far 80 billion in gold has been imported in the US in 2025, and we've only been here through 4 months through this year. So, obviously there's there's concerns and cautionary measures that either investors and whether it's a country or other countries trying to apply by having more gold inflows in the U.S. But it tells you a story why the gold chart has also gone through the roof. Whether it's investors being scared of deflationary or currency debasement, as well as recession fears. I do agree with Max. I don't think the Fed or the this current administration is going to let recession similar to the '08 financial crisis, because after that we had the beauty of money printing. So that's probably the the safest haven. But this chart kind of like tells you a little bit how people are feeling. If you go to the next one, um, it tells you a story as well of what's happening, right? Like if you think about, like, I believe it is less than 10% of U.S. Citizens, investors actually own any securities or any stocks. Is the largest, pretty much the top 10%. I would probably say the top 5% owns the large majority, close to 90% of the stocks. So when you look at charts like this, it tells you that middle earners ability to to buy, or buying power, is it keeps going down with the currency debasement, as well as the circumstances that are happening. So whatever is happening in the U.S. stock market doesn't really either resemble or specifically tell you a story of what's going on through the biggest part of America. If you go to, not the next one, but I'll
Wait.
tell you which one I like.
Can I say something to
Um,
that?
Max, you got something to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to point this out because
yeah, go ahead.
they broke this down, and people need to understand this. This is what I was talking about last week. Um, if you're not in America, you probably don't know this. If you are in America, you probably don't want to believe this. But here's what happened. Researchers broke down. Notice this is the source of this report. It's in Michigan. Michigan is a heavy Democratic state. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here's the point. They broke this down by how people voted. Okay. It is glaringly obvious that Democrats decided that the end of the world had arrived because Donald Trump was the president. So they answered every question at the farthest end of all these scales that you can answer. The Republicans were all middle of the road. Some were up, some were down, but they were right near the zero change line. The point is these averages are politically affected. And we're going to know that when we see the numbers, because the numbers don't back this up. See, for example, when you normally read a report like this, you would expect things like, say, the national retail sales report to plummet because people feel, according to this report, like they're just going to go to hell. That isn't what happened. Retail sales went up, durable goods went up, manufacturing went up. We are witnessing a politically orchestrated series of numbers, and that's going to happen for longer than you want to believe.
Absolutely. And I remember seeing in one of your videos that this happened. You really have to look into the details and the context of everything, especially in media headlines, how the headlines will say one thing, and then if you really read into it, that's not even really what it's
It's
fucking
not even
saying.
what the story is about. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just
No. I think it's good to see both side of the story, right? Because the truth is, you know, the media will definitely
Yeah.
manipulate data to their to their audience, to their specific interests. But there's a
I'm
few
glad.
other
I'm glad.
charts down there. Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
glad you picked this one. I want to talk about it. I don't know if you want to hit another chart first, but
Yeah, I
I'm
wanted
glad
to
you.
hit the bottom one, and then not particularly related to the health of American buying power, but if you can see, this exactly is the reason why we are bullish on Bitcoin. And if you look at the purchasing power for U.S. Consumer dollar from 95 to 2025, from the last 30 years, it's down 53%. So if you held dollars in your bank account or whatever, anything that wasn't investing in the stock market or other, highly appreciating assets over the last 30 years, you pretty much lost 53% of your wealth by holding dollars. So this pretty much tells you a story that, whether, we enter a recession or not, whether we get saved by money printing, you should always try to have appreciating assets, whether it's Bitcoin, real estate, or whatever you are comfortable investing, but definitely not holding dollars long term, because it's just going to be eroding your wealth. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about this, but I thought it was pretty impactful.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that is why money is changing. Everything is going to change. We've said this for years, and we're watching it happen all around us. The problem is paradigm shifts. Uh, Everybody knows the old saying, they happen slow at first and then overnight. And there's going to be a lot of the population that's going to wake up and say, "What the fuck do you mean my money is digital now?" They're not going to even realize it's been going on.
yeah.
So,
Mac, I don't think we've ever talked about CBDCs. We can talk about real briefly. Do you think there's going to be CBDCs? Or do you think it'll be like stable coins that are already in existence?
stable coins. They're,
Stable
they're,
coin.
they're not going to get into their own electronic coin business. That's not what governments are designed to do, or people will allow to happen. It just
Well, that's good to hear.
not going to
Good to
happen.
hear.
The other thing I wanted to mention is, if you pull out, there's another chart. Let me see if you scroll up a little bit.
Pull that one that shows debt, right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what we talked about last week?
Yeah, how the debt is.
Remember,
not
I was off. I was off by about $9 trillion. So what's the point of this chart? By the way, I don't want to take your spot. Go ahead. You cover what you wanted on this.
No. I just wanted to make sure that we just kind of like.
Yeah. First of all, this, in my opinion, should give every single person who has ever spent 50 seconds or more worrying about this god awful story that the United States media loves to terrify you with, and that's the national debt. Now, I want to ask you a question. If you have $36 trillion in one pocket, and you take 28.2 of the trillion dollars and you move it to the other pocket, do you owe yourself $28 trillion? The answer, of course, is no.
No.
You chose to move the $28 trillion from one pocket to another. In other words, to you, it's an asset. Why? Well, you wanted to buy the bond that the government operated on. You wanted to buy. There's not a single gun at any bond auction held up to any investor's head to say, you're going to bid on these bonds. So in reality, the $36 trillion and the $1 trillion of debt interest that we always hear is going to kill us, well, guess what? Divide 28 into 36. You're going to get roughly 80%. 80% of the $1 trillion in debt interest is actually income to United States investors on an asset they chose to purchase. That is not something that is going to come knocking on your door to wreck the United States and its entire history so that we get it paid back. It's never going to get paid back. It's not for that. Someone invested to get interest for 30 years or 10 years or 5 years or 2 years or 90 days. The point is they invested it. Nobody took it from them, and they're not asking for it back.
So there's no scenario where the U.S. like defaults on the debt, or that's just
No, of course not.
No.
It's absurd to even talk about it. It is a complete con job. There's no look. Here's what I've told people since. By the way, when I started in 1982, do you know what they told me when the national debt was $5.3 trillion under Ronald Reagan?
What?
We're going to go broke. We're never going to be able to pay this back. That's what they told me at $5 trillion. Now, imagine for a moment that it was 1982, interest rates were 20 friggin' percent, inflation was 15. Everybody, quote, knew that we were going to go broke because we owed $5 trillion. We didn't, but we were told we did. And that the dollar was going to become worthless. We were going to burn it in the street to cook our food. That was 1982, a Dow 901. Imagine for a moment all the people that believed that. Just imagine that group of people and how much they misunderstood and how much they were led off track and how much they missed over the next 40 years. And by the way, I will promise you the $36 trillion is going to get bigger. And I wish we could go back to that gold chart for a minute. If could we go back to that gold chart? I just want to say something about gold.
No, that one, not the inflows. That one. Yeah.
That one right there. Okay. So let's just pretend that the panelists in this call run the United States. Let's just pretend that, okay? We run the United States. We know that we're going to go audit the gold in Fort Knox. We also know that the Fort Knox gold is on the balance sheet at $40 an ounce. So we got a general idea of how much money we can create to buy the thing we really want. We've already told the world what we really want, and we want it before everybody else steps in front of us. So our game plan is to create a little friction, get some things organized, because you know what's going to happen where there's friction is everybody is going to pile into gold. Now, what do we want gold to do if we're getting ready to sell a ton of it? And I do mean lots of tons, so we can buy Bitcoin. What do we want gold to do? Well, we sure want it to be liquid, and we'd really like it if it went up a lot. Because the more it goes up, the more stuff that we really want to own, we can own.
Yeah.
So don't get, fried by these things. They all work out just fine. This is, by the way, if we were indeed running the country, this is all working out exactly the way we drew it up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
It's interesting. There's a few of the charts I wanted to chat about before we get to the Nvidia one. The one under, no, that one, the one underneath that one. Yeah, that's the M2 money supply printed by different countries, and as you can see so far, China's leading the race.
Oh yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
The
They're
they have been printing nonstop, and obviously they had a massive real estate crash. Believe it was 2022. They had to intervene in various occasions, but it goes to tell you that the amount of fiat being printed is at record highs, and it's gonna get higher.
Yes.
And the chart above, it's actually related to stable coins, which is why people keep saying that there's no liquidity in crypto. Part of it's the reason why things are not going up. But the next chart, the one above, Brent,
Yep.
that's telling you the growth in US stable coins, which
Yeah.
it's pretty much aligned to the fiat currency. What people are doing in many cases is investors are putting their US dollars on chain.
Yeah.
So,
but here's the
go
deal. Here's the great news about this chart, guys, and I'm sure everybody knows this already, but notice the influence of what this chart is. See, the analogous data of this chart is the same as what happens when money market accounts skyrocket in dollar balance. Why? Because they're afraid. Well, every time money market accounts skyrocket and set records, stocks go to the upside. Okay, now think about it. Look where this last set a record in early 22. Was that a good time to buy Bitcoin? That was a
Yes.
great fucking time to buy Bitcoin.
Bottom.
So what you're watching is a fear gauge. You're watching people want to get Bitcoin, but they're afraid of it. Why? Because it went down from 108,000 to 76.
Ooh, scary.
It's terrified them. So what are they doing? They're getting ready. And they're getting ready by putting money in stable coins. And you know when they're going to feel better about Bitcoin? They're
What's
going
up?
to feel better about Bitcoin at about 115,000.
Yep,
Sure.
absolutely.
And then we're going to see what we saw after 22. We're going to see that mountain form, but from a higher place. That mountain will form because it'll start going down the other side until we get to another high price.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rinse and repeat.
So I
I
have a
do.
question for you, Max. It's related to if you pull up the there's a chart underneath. I know there's so many charts, man. Bear
I
with
really
me.
appreciate you.
Go below.
I really,
Uh,
I really appreciate you bringing this on, brother. This brought a lot of value to the stream.
of
So thank
course. Scroll down a little bit. Not that one. That one is good too, but like go down. It's the one with multiple colored charts. It's coming up. No.
Sorry, my bad.
It's that one. Yes, that one. So that one tells you the returns of gold versus the S&P 500. And the question I have for Max and anyone here in the panel is, as you mentioned, Max, people are getting ready or they're buying gold, whether it's for the audit of Fort Knox or uh, just being able to sell it for Bitcoin or whatever strategy they use.
Right.
Now, how do you correlate gold to Bitcoin in terms of performance, right? Like people are scared,
Yeah.
thus they're buying gold
Yeah.
and dumping equities and other risk assets.
Right.
Bitcoin, I think we've discussed this, but I wanted to ask you if it comes down to a timing thing or a perspective thing where people are then going to start selling their gold and buying Bitcoin, or utilizing the money printing to buy Bitcoin in regards to what's going to happen next. Because some people are saying that gold, so Bitcoin normally lags gold in terms of performance. Others are saying that it's heavily dependent on money supply, global liquidity,
Mhm.
and others that they move along with the Nasdaq. So there's three theories there.
Right.
Which one do you support more?
Uh, I think gold is right alongside cash as a fear trade. There is a passionate, and I mean passionate, political civil war going on in the United States. The only thing we haven't done is started shooting each other. Um, I write a morning note and I get stuff back written to me that would shock you guys. I mean, shock you. And it's all political. It is a frenzy. That there is, in my opinion, a mental illness that has set in. Um, there is a large part of this country that absolutely hates this man with a passion, to the extent that they will cloud every single thing they look at with politics, everything. And when you do that, you're terrified of the whole world. You're certain it's going to hell in a handbasket, and you buy gold. Now, if we were to stretch this chart back a few years, that's not what this would look like. So, so of course, when you find a good spot, it will look like this. I don't think it means anything in the long haul. I think it's perfect if you plan to have a bunch of gold that you want to sell and go buy Bitcoin. This couldn't be happening any better. Well, I guess it could. It could be 35% instead of 22.35.
yeah,
Um, and by the way, it could very well happen. Look, obviously, gold is on a run, and when it gets on a run, they're strong runs, because there's nothing easier to do, guys, than scare people. I promise you. I have a way that we will get 5,600 listeners. And you want to know how we do that?
oh,
We
Mhm.
scare the living shit out of them. we tell them emphatically that the world is coming to an end. And by the way, we would have so many things to point to prove our point that would be hilarious. And do you know what would happen? All the people that are terrified would write on their Twitter and say, guys, you have got to talk to these guys. You got to listen to, they are so good. They're dead on with what's going on.
Mhm.
But because we're saying the opposite, well, there's a whole lot of people that go, yeah, that's just rose-colored glass thinking. That's not really true. I mean, they're just being positive. Do you know how long in my career I have heard that they appreciate me being positive?
Very little times.
That's how that's how a person who's going to lose tells you they don't agree with you. Well,
In,
I
in crypto, people call it a moon boy. If you're just like always bullish, they try to, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
call it a moon
So
boy.
I always tell them, I always go back and I say, well, let me ask you a question. If you feel that I'm being positive, who won the game I'm about to give you? Here's the game. Here's the rules of the game. One rule is go back to 1982, buy stocks, and don't ever sell. Ever. You are not allowed to sell. I don't care how scared you get. I'm going to make sure that no matter how many times you call, your sell orders are going to be refused. Period. So buy stocks and never try to sell them. Or the guy that is brilliant, because they always are, they're brilliant. They know exactly how the world works. They know exactly how the economy works. They can indeed see the future because most of them think they can. And I'll tell you how in a minute. And they're going to time the market. They're going to read headlines and they're going to be permitted to buy and sell when they, quote, feel it's negative or positive.
Yeah. I
They
think
will,
that's what Trump was mentioning the other day about CNN and not
yeah,
particularly
they will lose
naming
every time.
any media outlets here.
Oh,
But
yeah,
it's like all media and all tweets are tailored towards negative, impactful news because that's what sells the most,
yes,
right? So
correct,
you're
correct.
not gonna, if you look over the last 30 years, everything has been going up and
Yep,
it's been positive. But
yep.
if you look over, a time frame of days or weeks, everything is negative.
Of
Isn't
course,
that interesting?
of course. But here's the deal. Here's how I know fear-driven individuals have a special talent. Here's the talent. They know the future. Okay? Because here's how I know that they know the future. Every single time in the 40 years I have watched a client make a mistake and sell because of fear, I ask them a question. When are you going to get back in? And you know what they say to me? Every fucking time.
Hmm.
Sorry, I probably shouldn't have said the F word.
No, you're good.
They say to me every time, I'm going to get back in when the future is more clear. And I say to them, could you say that again? And they say, I'm going to get back in when the future is more clear.
Yeah, I saw a tweet again by Zagabond, who's the obviously the founder of Azuki. He said, "By the time it's perfect, you've missed the perfect time."
Of course.
Same
Yeah.
No
kind,
way.
Yeah. Same thing. But my
absolutely.
point is they believe, they believe that they know when that's going to be. And by the way, it's never clear. That's why it's fun to live. You don't know what's coming.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to touch on one more thing here. And again, for Loco, thank you so much for preparing these charts, man. It provide a lot of value to the listeners. But President Trump, real quickly, considers banning Congress from trading stocks. One, Max, do you think this happens? And two, do you think Congress members should be trading stocks?
I think it's fabulous. They're all criminals, and
Gotcha.
they and
I
they
agree.
and they inside trade every single time they trade.
Mhm.
So of course they shouldn't trade. No one else is allowed to do that. They shouldn't be allowed to either.
Yeah, that's why I respect people like David Sachs who sold all his crypto positions, super transparent, stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think that's good. I think it goes along the lines of President Trump kind of cleaning a lot of stuff out that a lot of presidents kind of were scared to do. I do really quickly want to take this time to do a quick reset. I think this has been a jam packed stream so far of information. Again, thanks so much for those charts for Loco. Real quickly, if you guys could please like, share, retweet the stream so we can get this out to more people. Again, we do these streams twice a week, Tuesday and Friday. We cover everything that's going on currently. Obviously, the relevant stuff with the trade war. We have Max Crypto here, which my good buddy of mine, someone I consider a mentor. We're blessed to have on the stream here with us. Check out his page. He has 4 decades of traditional finance experience at a high level, managing money. This guy's been on all the biggest news publications over the past few decades, 100 plus times, giving his takes, kind of like he's doing now. Specifically, like a lot of times on different crises over the decades, whether it be COVID, the tariff war of before, different things over the years. So again, we're so blessed to have him on the stream here. He's really been active a lot on Twitter lately, so definitely check out his tweets, what he's got going on. Him and I are kind of working and building on a Team Six Crypto, which is you guys will be hearing a lot more about. But and definitely check out his YouTube channel as well, which really epitomizes kind of what I was saying here about the different things over the years that he's seen in a lot of different good lessons in here. So definitely check this out. And then Max, any other places they can find us? I know you're starting the Instagram,
Yeah, I
TikTok.
know you and I got to work on the TikTok
Uh-huh.
and the IG, but want to get as many of these clips up as we can, just because the more you let this sink into your mind, the more happy you're going to be with how things unfold.
Absolutely. And then also, Max has a newsletter that he posts quite frequently on here. Denogronomics, say that 10 times fast. Um, where he does a newsletter a couple times a week. Definitely check those out. And then we have for Loco and Danksy and Rotes, who are with Bridge 3 Labs. For Loco being the founder. Again, for Loco is actually the reason but I kind of got into the streaming here on Twitter. He kind of, offered to bring me on his show originally on Bridge 3 Labs. So I'm super blessed to have him, running these streams with me as well. Offers, like you guys just saw, a lot of great value. So definitely check him out. Definitely shoot him a follow. And then what they got at Bridge 3 Labs, I'll give a quick overview. I know for Loco, we'll say some stuff, but great community here. I'm in there. I have a Bridge 3 Lab, a beast here. Great, a lot of smart people in there, providing a lot of guidance and stuff in traditional markets. A lot of people like been in the game for a long time, so definitely check out what they got going on. But for Loco, do you want to give a quick overview of what you guys got going on more recently, or anything else?
Yeah,
Um,
of course. Appreciate the kind words, friend, and likewise. I think since we started, we've seen there's a ton of interest in these spaces. I think this space with the addition of Max and all the team members here, I think it's much needed to distill all the information that sometimes gets lost, as well as clarify some of the fear mongering news that we hear on CT. So I think we're building something great, and appreciate everyone listening. But in regards to B3L or Bridge 3 Labs, we were just a community of about 500 investors and entrepreneurs. We got together pretty much around 2021, 2022, and we wanted to understand how the markets work. A lot of our members came from traditional finance. Others were trying to dive into crypto, but we're scared of getting scammed, which is it's one of the I guess the cons of being in crypto is you have to be very careful with wallet security and many other aspects of crypto when it comes to self custody. So we got together, we created an NFT community. I think we minted in 2023 over the period of a year. We have 1,000 NFTs called B3L Beasts, and they give you access to our community. As Brent said, we try to share as much knowledge and and tips as well as resources for you to be successful in crypto. And we have helped many members, and members have helped us to find talent and help fund different projects, and as well as have access to some projects early on. So really, really a source of knowledge and and resources if you are looking to.
Did he just cut out?
I think you just cut out.
Yeah, no worries. And then we do have Danksy, who has also been with us the entire time as well. Definitely check out what he's got going on. We definitely need him to get tweeting more, but he's been a key part of the stream as well. So obviously, thank you, Danksy as well, and then Rhodes as well has been here the entire time, providing a lot of NFT knowledge, doing those reviews, which we'll be going to NFTs here in a second.
For Loco, do you want to finish? I think he's back on right now.
Yeah,
He might be still.
Say that again.
I
If you
think
want to finish your thought, you just cut out in the middle of it, like your last sentence or something.
In regards to what? Sorry, I
you,
didn't
you just
understand.
cut out randomly. I don't know where you
Yeah, I think
you,
you were
you
at
went
like.
off. But either way, I think you were just finishing your thought about B3L. Um, Either way, Danksy wrote to get everybody a follow on the panel. I do want to get the stream moving along.
Brent,
Yeah,
I think I might cut out. My bad.
Frenzy's asking a question I think we ought to share with everyone. Can you see
perfect.
that in this string right there?
Let me see. Is it at the bottom?
It's right at the top right now.
I'm sorry. Am I not seeing?
It says, Max, I see from your bio you've been.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Max, I see from your bio that you've been holding ETH and Bitcoin since $7 and $700 respectively. What was your conviction? Did you ever feel like making a mistake?
I'm glad someone asked that, only because I think it's of real value, especially during windows like we're living through right this minute. The answer is no. I never wanted to sell anything. I just want to buy more stuff. And the conviction was, as all these really smart guys on the panel have shared with you ever since they started, the world's changing. And if you don't get that, you're going to be left behind. Our money's going to change because it has to. Inflation does not work in a world of technology, and you've got to take it out of the system. You got to make money more fair, and it's got to work all over the place, everywhere, the same way it works anywhere else. So I was very blessed in that I thought that very early. And I'm not a person in my life, if you knew my background and some of the issues that I've lived through, you would recognize I'm not a person who can be swayed easily by fear. So I was blessed to be able to see and feel comfortable that the technology that was birthing around those early tokens and the process being built, to me, was very clear. It just demanded you have to wait. So the price is you have to wait. The price isn't what you're paying for it. The price is what you have to wait for. And that's the hardest price. Lots of people can move money around, but very few people can wait. And the winners would be the ones who can wait. And you just got to be able to get it down to that simple concept. Everything else is noise. Everything else is superfluous. Everything else is unnecessary to fret over. The question you have to know is in you, kind of like Gatorade. Is it in you, or Nike? Maybe that's Nike. I can't remember. Is it in you? Are you able to wait? If you can't wait, you are not going to like cryptocurrency. But if you can wait, it will change your entire life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that was Gatorade, by the way.
Okay, good.
But no, that's beautiful. Yeah, it is truly in the patience. Unts Login says an unintended consequence is people will be in Congress for shorter periods of time. Yeah, they're gonna want to get out so they can to insider trade. No, I think Trump was saying, or someone was talking about increasing the income for politicians, so it kind of incentivizes them to actually, like the greatest people, to be get in it.
It incentivizes them to steal less.
Yeah, I get,
Yeah.
I guess,
Okay.
right?
Why don't I pay you guys more so you stop fucking stealing from us? That's a good
That's
idea.
yeah, fuck them. Yeah,
the
those kind of
the
people.
the difference the difference is that, even if you increase the salary from whatever 200,000 to 500,000, that definitely helps them. But once they see the greed that comes from making hundreds of millions,
Yeah,
that's when I don't know if it's gonna really make the
they
difference.
can't pay them enough to fucking.
That's the problem with this world,
They
Well,
couldn't pay.
once
right?
once they've shown themselves as thieves, it's hard to make them not thieves.
Yeah, you don't want
Exactly.
those people in there anyway. Um, Beautiful. Yeah, I just want to make sure any things I didn't miss in the chat. We always appreciate you guys and your questions. When is the time? When the time is perfect, you have missed the perfect time. Yeah, absolutely. I love that quote. Justin asked about AI and memes. We're gonna get into that in just a second here. I know for Loco has to get off in 5 minutes or so. We'll keep going here till probably around 2:30. I want to hit NFTs and a few other things. Max has a ton of knowledge. It's not worth just 600 views. Yeah, for sure. Again, time viewership and people are paying less and less attention on crypto, but we want to keep doing these streams through the bad, through the ups, downs, boring times, whatever. We appreciate you guys for being on here. It says a lot about you that you're trying to learn kind of when not much is going on. Let me see here. I do want to move on to what will be hold on. I saw. Hey, Brent, I hear China stopped taking Boeing jets after new U.S. tariffs. Will this affect stocks? Is Boeing
Yeah, I
China?
read that. I read that as
Was
well.
that
I think it
today?
was 2018 or something that they stopped ordering.
Uh,
I don't know. I don't know really know what to tell you about it. To be honest, I don't know if any of you guys have any thoughts, but I definitely read that.
Well,
yeah,
here's how it works. Think of Boeing as a bunch of companies in line to get airplanes. They got a longer line than you can possibly imagine. When you order an airplane, you're in a 5-year line. So if one guy who gets airplanes says, I want to step out of line and screw you because he thinks he's going to convince Trump to move something, when indeed he can only step out of line for about 90 days, and then his country's airlines are going to say, get back in line. I need airplanes to do business. So what he'll do is he'll posture. But here's the point. As soon as he steps out of line and waves his finger at someone and says, I'll show you, I'm not going to take any of your airplanes. Well, they just give it to the next guy because there's a next guy for the next 5 years.
for sure.
Yeah, I agree with Max there. Like, there's only two companies in the world that can make these planes. That's
Right,
Boeing
exactly.
and Airbus. So unless they don't need planes, like,
Real quickly, we're not plane expert, whatever, but why is that? It's just because the regulation, like,
it's
try to
just
take.
that hard to make a plane. Like,
It
every
takes a
time
long
Boeing
time
makes
to
a
make an
plane,
airplane.
they're betting the company to make a new plane.
Yeah.
Like, look what happened with the Max plane that, like, not Max Crypto, but the 747 Max or whatever that keeps like dropping for that
Yep.
1 year. Like, it's really hard to make planes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very difficult.
especially planes that size.
yeah. Frenzy says gold reserve or Bitcoin reserve. What do you prefer, Sir Max? Uh,
Bitcoin, easy. That's an ezy question. That's
yeah,
almost too easy.
for sure. Useless Flame says Max, chill. You're spitting too many facts. Uh, for sure. I loved your tweet earlier, Max, yesterday. Let's see. You have great ones. But at the end, it says it's about to be lit with the Bitcoin shit. I love that. That was funny. But yeah, Max has been putting out some fucking heat out here on his tweets. Definitely going to have more clips from this stream, which I know this one's going to have a ton of them. So definitely follow everybody on the panel. Like I said, I want to go over real quickly a tweet that I made today. Kind of talking about how I've just seen on crypto, especially right now because of the last few months, that most stuff is down 70%. That kind of people kind of assume that the only way to make it, unless you're holding Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, is to just be trading in and out of stuff really quickly. And I think this kind of touches to what Max was saying earlier, more so the Bitcoin and ETH side. This tweet, I'm talking more about, alts and memes. But yeah, I mean, right now I think everybody's kind of focusing and assuming, hyper focusing on the last few months where all these memes and even the great memes, Mog, Giga, SPX, all these ones that have been around for 2 years already, down 70%. They assume you have to be trenching or trading these new gamble pairs all the time. And in reality, if you zoom out you go back to the Bitcoin chart and you see every single time that Bitcoin has come out of these corrections from the summer of 23 right here, the summer of 24, same thing happens. The great memes, go down, and I call it great memes. I mean, the ones that have been around for a while, these strong communities go down 50 to 90%, just like we're seeing right now. And when these Bitcoin corrections end, the good memes, again, some stuff dies, but the good memes and alts rise out and go to all-time highs. Those are the people, again, who see those great gains, who again kind of hold and weather these storms. Same kind of thing that Max is saying with Bitcoin and ETH. I think really that's the only viable way, or really the best shot at making it long term. So Max, do you want to kind of touch on that? I know this is again mostly about alts and memes, which is memes, not so much your world, but kind of tell the audience that maybe hadn't heard your past few talks, on the importance of buying and holding versus being a trader.
Yeah, I just had a conversation this morning with a client on this. You got to realize that, and I can give you an analogy in the stock world.
Yeah.
When you travel 43 years, you meet a lot of people. You get the benefit of seeing a whole lot of personalities and perspectives and actions or inactions and failures and successes. And here's the thing I want to impress upon you. I know lots of traders in the stock business. I mean, I've had offices in every major trade center in the country. Board of Trade, Mercantile Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, Gold Desk, Silver Desk, Soybean Desk, wherever you can think of, I've been associated with these guys. And here's the point. Every single trader I've ever met can tell you about great runs that he or she had. Great runs. I mean, everything worked. But they didn't retire with the money. See, it's like we joke about going to Vegas. Go for a night. Don't go for a week. You will give your money back. And then you'll spend money that maybe you didn't want to lose. But that's how trading is. Trading is filled with streaks, filled with them. And right when you should walk away with all your money, you are convinced, man, look how well I've been doing. I can become a zillionaire doing this. All I got to do this is do it for 3 more years. And you know what happens? Is you give it all back. Trading does not work. It works like the lottery works. See, the lottery works if you're the lucky guy. Well, that's not how you're going to get rich.
Just to be plays devil's advocate, what do you say to the person that's like, "Oh, I'm a trader. I have great risk management. It would take me this many trades to wipe me out." Like, do you say to those people that those type of people just won't make much progress, even if they don't lose everything?
I would tell you that human nature says otherwise. You may very well be an excellent trader and an excellent money manager and an excellent risk manager. You will not be able to do that for 25 years. Period. Yeah. You won't be able to. Your brain will give out on you. I'm sorry, but it will. The stress of being a great trader is like being a great quarterback in the NFL. Eventually, your body is finished.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So my other point to that is this. I've also known lots of investors, and I know a ton of them who retired very wealthy, but they had to go through all the shit. Yep. And that's the unfortunate part. That's the price.
That's the trade-off.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great points. See here. Again, we appreciate you guys for sharing it and liking it and engaging with the stream. I wanted to touch on a few more things before we go to NFTs. We did see the U.S. Senator Tim Scott in this video said that they believe a crypto market structure bill will be passed into law by August. We heard David Sachs talk about this on the All In podcast like a month ago to kind of look out for this. For those of you who don't know, and again, I'm not an expert, this is just some stuff I've read, heard Max talk about it a bit, that market structure bills kind of set like a precedent for like laws for certain, in this case, digital asset classes. I've heard David Sachs talk about how they're going to categorize, digital collectibles like NFTs and meme coins and all these other different things, which is what the industry has been looking for a lot of years to kind of legitimize it, especially in the realm of like NFTs, where a lot of these founders and projects like I'm invested in, like VeeFriends, are kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk, are kind of waiting for like regulatory clarity to give them guidance on whether they can offer this type of utility to holders. Can they offer equity in future businesses to their holders and stuff, and certain stuff like that. Now, I don't know if this exact bill has that in there, but this is kind of the path towards that. So again, we can get that clarity, which is again really important for the industry, I think. And then another thing too, another tweet that I put out, kind of something that I got, I've known for a long time, but Max really, solidified in my head that to really focus on what's next, not what's happened. I've heard so much recently, people talking about Ethereum. The only thing they're basing, pretty much, only thing they're basing their outlook on Ethereum. Everybody's saying, "Oh, Ethereum shit." There's a meme coin actually out right now, Max. I don't know if you've seen this, called ETHTard, where the whole thing is they just he goes and comments on a bunch of people's tweets who are like bull posting and talking positively about ETH. Uh, it's actually pretty funny, but I will say I think this is a major bottom signal when the crowd kind of really making a
Oh yeah.
thing, and I think a lot. While whoever's making this account really funny, I give it to you. I think a lot of the meme's not going to be as so funny when ETH's fucking ripping on this next run here, in my opinion. But I think overall, it's super funny here. I wanted to make the point though that ETH, everybody you hear say, oh, ETH shit, ETH what? I always ask them, why, and it's mostly, oh, because the last few years it's performed like shit. While that's valid, of course, it's not fun to hold an asset that's is outperformed by Sol, Bitcoin, whatever. While I think you should have a basket of all those assets anyway. If you're an ETH maxi or whatever, definitely not fun. But either way, I think you got to zoom out and look at the last 15 years. That ETH, or I'm sorry, whatever, 10, however long it's been, 10 years that ETH's been out. And not hyper focus so much on this short term time frame. You got to look at things like the regulatory clarity, and stuff that's coming, that's in front of us, and not so much that's what's happened. Because again, I use the Amazon example, um, you know, in my tweet here, that if you would have gone with that logic that, oh yeah, fucking, you know, ETH's performed like shit the last few years, why would I buy it? If you would have said that about Amazon, what, in this correction that it had from $5 all the way to 35 cents, that obviously Max was right in the middle of, and
Well, I'll tell you something even further, Bren. You could make that statement about every stock.
yeah,
Every stock acts like shit for a long time before it explodes. Every
Yep.
one. Every one.
yep, and exactly. And I think really what we try to get in and help people get a grip on in these streams is, again, you got to focus on what's happened, what's in front of us, what's likely to come here, in front of us, and not so much what's happened. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to touch on here. Any more thoughts on that, Max? I think you kind
No,
of
I
nailed it.
think you touched on it good.
Hell yeah, brother. Roach, you still with us, bro?
Always.
Yes, sir. Justin, real quickly, he said, "Remember Brent's post today. Those who hold the good coins will make disgusting money." Yeah, I mean, again, it's you just got to look back to the last few years and before that, when Bitcoin has these major corrections, alts, memes, everything comes down. It all follows the majors, and not everything survives. But the coins that have shown that they have survived in the past, like Giga, SPX, Mog, meme wise, have always made moves higher, and I think the same thing is going to happen here, probably more explosively than we've ever seen, due to what I think a large influx of people are going to come into crypto, which a lot of that's going to go into meme coins. But either way, that's a different story. I want to move on to NFTs here in a second, but I want to make sure I hit all your guys' comments and questions. Let me see here. Thanks, Brent. I thought maybe it's only a blue tick you guys can text. Been trading this week, losing heavily. Yeah, it's I assume you're trading obviously like newer coins. I'm not totally against that. I wanted to make a point in that tweet too, that I'm not against, again, like trading smaller coins at all. I think if that's all you're focused on completely, I think you're gonna have the results of like an average gambler, or maybe even worse, because of the odds. But if you are gonna play in these things, obviously I'm not against taking profits or any of that, but I think you want to set up most of your portfolio in the bucket of investing, whether it be Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, or these proven. Maybe you can put some of these meme coins that have been around for a little bit into that bucket. Debatable, but set up most of your portfolio, maybe 60-70% plus of your portfolio in that investor bucket, where you're only adding to, you're accumulating more of via your small trading, and then the rest of that, if you really like that small trend stuff, you want to play your chances in that. Play with a smaller amount of your account. Take profits into those bigger kind of investing bucket. Um, but Rotes, I appreciate you waiting. Let's go ahead and hit some NFT stuff for the people here. Are you able to
Yeah,
pull up the thing, or I would, are you not able to?
not on Tuesday,
Gotcha,
unfortunately.
gotcha. Tuesday, no. All right. Tuesday, no
But
sharing.
yeah, volumes themselves are on this like steady downward decline at the moment. Not significant. It's still in kind of its range, but it is in like this downtrend in terms of volumes. Buyer to seller ratio has been generally pretty positive, better than where it's been, and that's really good to see. What's most important though, and we talked about this over the last couple shows, is that prices across, and this is average price across blue chips are down roughly 40% in USD terms, but fairly flat in terms of E terms. So, really providing this interesting opportunity, I think, if you're looking at NFTs as a ad point of view. Generally speaking, they're in these consolidation zones, this lower range where it's been for Ethereum for these price floors for the NFTs. And as ETH rebounds, if of course, then that helps the overall NFT price forward with them. Or if we get a rally, then with the rally, then you're getting at a pretty stable entry point. So those are kind of the things that stand out for the most part. There's been some larger sales in the terms of punks, but in general, punks are down pretty substantially in USD value. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, definitely not a lot going on this week except that CryptoPunk thing. What was the fucking
Wilcox, yeah.
yes, let's see. Um, yeah, 13 million for tax fraud. Obviously, not. It's crazy that this guy's. Have you ever heard of this guy before? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
before
He's
he's
been
like
on the
a
timeline for a while. He's one of the KOLs you recognize, especially on the punk side of things.
thanks. So
Made a
he
bunch of
just
money from being early to punks back in the day, and then sold out. What was it, 10 million worth of profit, or 11, 12 million worth of profit in punk sales, and never ever claimed it. So
he
being
just never claimed any of it.
no, so
Wow.
having made so much money, not claiming any of it
How many
really
punks do
stands
you own?
out.
He sold 60.
He
How
he's no
many
he sold 97
in
over
2021
2 years.
to
How
Yeah,
much? How many did he own? Was he just like early taker or what?
yeah. He I think probably has owned over 100.
so the
So
way that they happen at First Max is they like used to have like they give them out for free actually for like a long time. People had like I don't know hundreds or whatever, just giving them out for free. Were they originally free completely?
Wow.
Roads?
I believe so. I
I
actually
think
don't
they
know
were
that.
free. Yeah, they were either free or very
Punks are
cheap.
sold. I don't even know if they have a mid price. But no, I think they were traded amongst the some original cryptos
It
back
seems like that's
in
kind of like the great
2020
assets,
range.
like Bitcoin for a
Hmm.
while, same kind of way. Like could get it for free in these faucets, um, you know, free for a long time, kind of doing like performing like shit for a long time. I know where the like really early adopters, really early believers are able to get it for free or very cheap. But yeah, it's very interesting. 13 million. God help this guy. That's fucking crazy. I mean, damn. Got to report your taxes. I think it's gonna become more and more easy for the IRS, obviously, as the world is fucking swallowed up by crypto, for them to track these things. So, damn.
Yeah, the other bit of news is that OpenSea has not yet delivered a token, but they
Yeah,
have
what the fuck are they?
enabled trading Solana meme coins on OpenSea.
A lot of
So at
meme
least
coins.
they're
What
focused
about NFTs?
on NFTs. Hmm?
Wait, so you can trade just Solana NFTs on
No,
OpenSea?
Solana meme coins. You could do Solana NFTs before.
Oh,
Now
okay.
you can do Solana meme coins.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
So
Interesting.
that's exciting for all those trying to use OpenSea to buy meme coins, which is exactly 0 people
Yeah,
out there. So
yeah. Yeah,
I'm sure they're going to incentivize people that do it for their token airdrop that may come never. So there's that.
did they now? I don't remember because it's just so much fucking shit around it. Did they ever actually implicitly say that a token's coming, or was it like a kind of a hint at it? I don't remember.
Um, I think it was strongly hinted. I don't know if there is any official communication of a token.
Yeah, I just know there's been so many different times that they've like hinted at it in so many different dates. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there's.
Brandon,
They've mentioned rewards,
What's up,
right?
Max?
go to Becker's front page. Look at the tweet he just put in 6 minutes ago. Tell me he's not listening to what we're talking about.
Real Alpha is just holding and staying
Yes,
optimistic.
sir.
This is the easiest trade in history, and 90% will fumble. He has to be listening. Also, Murad too said something today as well. You're not bullish enough, which Max said fucking 3-4 weeks ago on this stream, word for word. Prepare for the most face melting rally in history, financial, and then somebody on our stream here, who was it? Fuck it. Somebody commented and said, "Oh, Miss D," which always on stream. What'd you say, Max?
It's Miss D. She tweeted.
Yes, sir. Miss D, always on the streams. Really appreciate you. She says, definitely Brent trades her Team Crypto 6 behind this tweet. But 100%, man. I mean, same kind of characters again. Say what you want about Murad. I think just his resolve and holding his conviction. I respect him a lot more for holding, his coins. Even if they're down 60-70%, you don't agree with specific coins, but holding and actually believing in his thing instead of bouncing around. I think that's the easy way. I think Gary Vee, actually, who I was about to pull up, made this clip yesterday kind of talking about how it's really easy. The easy way out, the easy thing to be is be dark and complain and say we're fucked. Everything's, completely fucked. That's the easy way out. The hard way is to be optimistic and have hope and all that. And like too many people are just taking the easy way out, right? Just like doing
Well,
most.
it's like we said on multiple streams. The easiest thing to do is get rid of the pain. You just have to sell.
Yep.
It's so easy to get out of the pain, out of the question, out of the stress, out of the noise that goes on your head. It's so simple. You just have to sell.
Yep. 100%. But yeah, sorry for the little detour. I wanted to touch too, obviously, a project that I believe heavily in, and that I probably my biggest NFT bet for sure. One of my biggest crypto Web3 bets on VeeFriends. Gary Vee, the last few weeks, been going super heavy over the last few months, talking about VeeFriends, making it clear that everything he's building with VeeFriends is to funnel people into the Grail collectible he calls, which is the VF1 or VeeFriends NFTs in general. Coming out with a lot of like kind of utility for holders lately in the form of the card stuff that they're releasing. Been hinting at a lot of different Web3 stuff coming. The last week or so, he's given away about one. He did one time yesterday, and then another one about a week ago, giving away about 100 VF2s to different people who commented on his post. Really just onboarding. If you read these posts, like a lot of people are super stoked, talking about they're going to hold it for a long time, onboarding people into crypto. And I think for me, just one of the highest reasons I have so much conviction in Gary himself, and especially with VeeFriends, is he has the ability to onboard new people or just people in general into his project and get excited about what he has got going on more than I've seen anybody else. And I don't think he's going to stop with this. And you already see him doing it on his Instagram and the other platforms where he has millions of people on. So just starting to heat up with this. If you're looking for some type of exposure to the NFT bull run that I think is coming, I would focus, if not on VeeFriends, which VeeFriends I think is going to be the best performer from here and really shock a lot of people. But just really from me, my advice is, NFTs, especially with IP. We're not talking about CryptoPunks or the art or anything like that, but like with specific IP, I'm talking about VeeFriends, Pudgy Penguins, Azuki, Bored Apes. You want to look for people. For me, specifically, is the great operators, people who have proven track records in business and real life, who lead with integrity, people who have stuck around in the bear market and shown that they're really building. I think those are the ones that I would focus on. Again, I think there's several ones out there. Gary for me is the most proven one, or the one I love the most. But then of course you got Luca, who I think is great. You have people like Zagabond. You got a bunch of great people in the space, and that's really what I'd focus on. I think these are the projects that not only are going to do the best during this next NFT bull run that I think is going to come, but overall long term, I think they're the ones who are going to make people give a fuck about their IP, and I think that's what it's all about long term.
I
Um,
still got to go get my gift.
yeah, we'll set that up today. I don't know. I want to show you actually, Max. And for the people, okay, let's see. What's it called? Sapphire cards. Just today, there's offers. For example, people who have the Gift Goat NFT, which myself and Max are holding. There's offers on them on eBay right now for like $3,000. So whoever's holding that Gift Code NFT is getting dropped this Sapphire box. There's only 600 of them to the Topps Chrome release that they're doing. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm not a huge card person before this, but Topps, obviously a huge company. Topps Chrome, VeeFriends, kind of getting into all the Topps Chrome retailers. The goal in this and the objective is to get VeeFriends in front of thousands or a ton of kids, a ton of people, getting the mind share out there of VeeFriends. But anyway, the Topps Chrome Sapphire box dropped to all the VeeFriends, the gift code holders, right now going for 3,000. I'd imagine in the short term probably keeps going up as they go up, but long term, if VeeFriends actually matters and is the next Marvel, Disney, whatever the fuck, I imagine these boxes are going to be worth a lot of money because of how limited they are. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. But yeah, what else, Rhodes? Anything else besides that punk sale? I think again, NFTs are really just waiting for that catalyst. Who knows what it'll be? Maybe some kind of thing coming from regulatory stuff, some type of integration, some momentum spillover. But historically, I think now is the time. If you do believe in another NFT bull run, or at least that a few of these projects are going to run, now is the time. Obviously, when you want to be accumulating. Um, but yeah, Pudgy's below 10 ETH is pretty crazy, man. 60% drop. But yeah, we were talking about Max bought a little bit of Pengu last week. Um, I have the same kind of thesis around Pengu as well. I think Luca will make integrate it into the stuff they're doing. I do want to check the comments. Rhodes, anything else that we're missing news wise though?
Not that I can think of. No.
Perfect. And somebody was asking about Flog earlier. Thien at the top of the show was asking about it. I want to make sure to touch on that. We touch on meme coins briefly at this point the last few weeks because, again, not much is going on. My thesis remains the same. I kind of touched on it in this tweet that dang, I just realized I wasn't sharing the Magic Eden stuff. But I'm gonna switch to Flog real quick. The Flog, all these other coins, the same thesis I've had for a minute. I think the good coins, the few coins that still have communities that are still strong, will rise out of this as Bitcoin goes back up. That's what's happened in the last two of these big corrections that we've gotten since the bottom in 2022. When Bitcoin comes down 20 to 30%, the memes come down 50 to 90. And then the ones that do survive come up and usually go to all-time highs. I think Flog is going to be one of those. The 90% correction in meme coins, as crazy as it sounds, is kind of a rite of passage for all of these coins that have really risen to billion plus market caps. I could show you Gigamog, SPX have gone through these 70 to 90% corrections before. Flog is going through its first one here. For me, I think it's going to be one of the ones that does come out of it due to a bunch of different things we could go over. But for whoever asked about that, I think Thien or Thien, however you pronounce it, I do think Flog is going to go back to all-time highs. Obviously, we don't have as much data. I don't have as much conviction, and I don't have as much stuff to go off of maybe Giga, SPX, Mog that have lived through these before. but I still have been buying FWOG on the way down here the last few weeks because I do think there is a greater probability that it does rise than it just dying here. Same kind of thing with Giga SPX MOG. I think it's really we've really stressed here to not overcomplicate things. Whether you're trading, the alts, the top 50 alts, which Max has been talking about, or memes. Really, you could throw a dart at the top, maybe 10 to 20 memes, the top 50 alts, um, in the market cap list, and probably do well, over the next however many years. You have 2 years, 1 year, whatever it is. But you just have to wait through these periods. Very few people are actually able to muster up the courage and stomach these corrections. And they always tell themselves, "Oh, I'm going to buy," when, like Max said, things are more clear, but they never do. You most of the time, right? So, yeah, to really anybody ask about meme coins, I think for me, just whether for me, Mog, SPX Giga, uh, Flog, Ticker Bitcoin, a Fartcoin, a few others. To you, it might be something else, but I would focus on the coins that have survived these corrections before, where you still see people talking about them and people really still giving a fuck about them when price is down. Usually, that's a good sign that on the upside they're going to do well. So that's what I would say. And then a few more questions. What are your thoughts on diversification versus concentrating investments in a few high conviction assets? What would you say to that, Max?
Is that me? Did you
Yeah,
want me to?
sorry, I
Yeah.
know quick with that. I was saying, he says, what are your thoughts on diversification versus concentrating investment in a few high conviction assets?
I think a beginner or medium long term investor should probably, if they're just asking about the token world, should focus on the top. I don't know, because of the way prices have acted, you now have the opportunity to just shop in the top 100, maybe the top 150. I mean, quality, functional, utility driven tokens, and they're all priced at stupid prices. And if you end up with, gosh, a dozen of them, maybe 15, you're going to do just fine. You could practically throw darts at them.
Love that. Makes sense. Makes sense. Let's see. Anything else? Please. What makes specific NFT collections valuable or desirable? So again, there's different buckets, just like crypto coins that that you can put NFTs in. For me, there's art. There's crypto punks, which are kind of on their own. I think where it's kind of a mix of a few things. Art, kind of that provenance, that original 10K collection kind of story that nobody else can recreate. They're kind of on their own. And then you have digital art, which you have people like these kind of digital artists like Beeple. You have X Copy. You have what's the guy that makes the checks or whatever the fuck his name is? People like that in the art side.
Jack
And
Butcher.
then, yeah, Jack Butcher. Yeah, thank you. Um, which is more stuff on a longer term bet that as important digital assets and crypto becomes more popular, that these key artists, these digital asset NFT artists, will become more important, which I think is pretty valid. And then you have the IP bets, which a lot in the 2021 collections are IP bets where people, instead of, this is kind of the way I look at it, and kind of Gary Vaynerchuk kind of breaks it down, I think is smart, is that a lot of these different IPs, X Men, fucking whatever, Spider Man, Sesame Street, they started in a medium, whether it be cartoons, comic books, whatever it may be, that originally got them famous, really originally got them big, and then they expanded into cards and everything fucking else. NFTs is a new medium of that, where a lot of, I'm sorry, you say something? A lot of the important brands of now, NFTs will be that initial push where they started with NFTs. Let's say VeeFriends, Pudgy Penguins, built up that way, raised capital, got their original 10K, 20K fans to drive it. Uh, it goes up in mind here, and then all of a sudden they branch out to all these cartoons and all these different things. As crypto and NFT technology becomes more important, real estate and all that stuff is on NFTs. These original IPs, I think, are going to become very important. And again, it comes down to me to answer your question: what makes them valuable? When you're talking about these IP plays, I'm talking about, I think it really has to do with the operator behind them. Can they drive it? Can they make people give a fuck about it? Do they have business experience? Do they have integrity? All these different things. I think that's really what makes it valuable for me, and that's why I've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into VeeFriends, because I think Gary Vee specifically is just the most proven, and not only business but just seeing these technology years ahead of time, and really understanding them. Like Max and I'm sure Max saw this coming a while back too, but and other people. But we're talking about these RWAs. We're talking about tokenized contracts and all this different stuff. Gary actually made a video 3 or 4 years ago talking about why he got into NFTs is because he knows everything is going to be on that stuff, and he just sees these things years ahead of time. Either way, I'm ranting. But to answer your question, for me, it's the operator, really, that I think is going to drive these IPs. A few more questions, and then I do want to get going here. Again, we do these shows Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday a little bit later, 1 p.m. PST. Friday at 10 a.m. PST. We're going to start to have more cool guests on, adding more entertainment value. Like I said, I brought on this guy, Can't Stop Me Now, which is super talented with editing and AI, or he's going to kind of produce these streams that are going to, we're going to add a lot of entertainment value and a lot of cool stuff. So definitely appreciate you guys for being on and what's it called? Contributing to the streams in the chat. Not selling. I'd rather be uncomfortable now to be comfortable later. Let's go. Nokia Mania.
Tell Miss D that there is definitely going to be an NFT crew.
Let's see what you say. Thanks, sir. Would you do great in NFTs if he's interested? Wait, what was it?
She said she thinks I would do great in NFTs.
Oh yeah, and what was your answer to?
It's coming.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
Actually, two sets of NFTs. One financial, one with a Asian twist.
Interesting. Love to hear about that. But for sure. Let me see here. Great answer, Max. Drago. But yeah, go ahead and give a follow to everybody on the stream. We appreciate you guys for being on. We'll be back on Friday at 10 a.m. PST. If you have any suggestions of stuff that you'd like to see, I always appreciate the feedback. Rojam, Misty, a lot of people always provide great feedback. So, definitely shoot me a DM if you have any suggestions. But with that, Max, anything else before we sign off?
Hey, man, everybody stay blessed, stay patient, and be happy. Everybody else is sad, and it's going to pay off if you just think positive.
Love that. Danksy, anything else?
No, I'll see you guys Friday. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, yeah. Rose, final thoughts?
No final thoughts. Let's get it. Let's move it up. Let's ride that green.
Yes, sir. Drago says we're 920 viewers. That's impressive. Yeah, for sure. We appreciate you guys for being on, and appreciate you, Roja. And we'll see you on Friday. Peace.
Be well, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah,
See you
everyone.
guys.